Welcome back to another GeneCapsule explainer. Today, we're diving into something massive. It's this almost invisible intersection that's literally reshaping our entire world right under our noses, the convergence of artificial intelligence and climate policy. Now, normally, you hear about these two things in completely separate conversations, right? AI is all about tech innovation, and climate policy is debated in the realm of environmentalism. But what if I told you that, together, they're quietly creating the next global superpowers? We're going to look closely at the underlying dynamics driving this shift so we can make perfect sense of this brand new global order. I want you to take a step back for a second and just think about this question. What actually builds a global superpower? We all get so caught up in the day-to-day headlines, the newest app release, or the latest legislative debate that we rarely zoom out. So challenge yourself to rethink what geopolitical dominance really looks like today. If you were playing a massive game of global strategy right now, what resources would you absolutely need to gather to make sure your nation comes out on top? Now, what's really interesting about this is how the fundamental resources of global power have completely evolved. Back in the 20th century, dominance was defined by tangible, heavy assets. We're talking oil, steel, and traditional military might. Think of those massive steel mills from the 1950s, or the global scramble for petroleum reserves. Basically, whoever controlled the physical fuel controlled the future. But here in the 21st century, the new currency of power is entirely different. It's silicon, it's green tech, it's artificial intelligence. The battleground has definitively shifted away from physical territory and oil fields, directly into compute power, clean energy grids, and advanced algorithms. To understand exactly how this works, here's our blueprint for 21st century strategic dominance. First, we'll look at the new global chessboard. Second, the AI energy paradox. Third, green policy as geopolitics. Fourth, the silicon-green convergence. And finally, tomorrow's global superpowers. Okay, let's dive right into this with part 1, the new global chessboard. We're rapidly transitioning away from those old industrial paradigms we just talked about, and the entire geopolitical board has basically been wiped clean. To win on this newly reset board, you absolutely have to avoid a geopolitical bottleneck. Think of a bottleneck like a massive 10-lane highway that suddenly merges into a single dirt road right during rush hour. It doesn't matter how fast your sports car is, you're gonna get stuck. In the modern era, a bottleneck happens when a critical strategic resource, specifically energy grids or raw compute power, restricts a nation's ability to exert its global influence. If you lack compute, well, your economy slows down. If your grid fails, literally everything stops. Which brings us to part 2, and this is a really fascinating one, the AI energy paradox. And this brilliantly illustrates the massive bottleneck that almost no one saw coming just a few years ago. Generative AI requires a huge, exponential leap in power compared to traditional computing. We're not just talking about needing a little bit more electricity than a standard internet search, we are talking about a 10x exponential leap. AI data centers are now devouring gigawatts of electricity just to train these advanced models. I mean, some individual data centers use as much power as an entire mid-sized city. This explosive growth in artificial intelligence has created an absolutely insatiable appetite for huge, unprecedented levels of energy allocation. So here's where the tension becomes a full-blown paradox. We just established that AI requires massive energy, right? But at the exact same time, sweeping global climate policies are actively restricting and phasing out traditional carbon-heavy energy sources. So you've got this wild race to build the most advanced technology in human history, which requires limitless power, colliding directly with a global regulatory environment that's actively capping how that power can be generated. The result? A massive geopolitical bottleneck. You simply can't just go build a bunch of coal plants to power your AI without violating international climate agreements and domestic policies. Moving right along to part 3, green policy as geopolitics. Because of this paradox, green energy takes on a totally different role and has essentially become the new oil. Transitioning to green energy is no longer just an environmental goal, it is hardcore strategic geopolitics. First, it's about securing sovereign energy grids. Think about it. If you generate your power via wind, solar, or nuclear within your own borders, you aren't reliant on global supply chains that could get choked off during a conflict. Second, it's about transitioning away from old dependencies on foreign, volatile petrostates. And third, it allows for strategic resource allocation. Look, whether a government leans left or right, the geopolitical math here is exactly the same. Energy independence ensures national security and guarantees that you can power the tech of the future. Let's move to part 4 and see how this builds into what we call the silicon-green convergence. When these two massive forces collide, they create an incredibly powerful feedback loop. It's a real aha moment when you see it. Step 1, you build robust green energy grids that can cleanly power the massive compute demands of AI without triggering those climate policy bottlenecks we just talked about. Step 2, you then use that advanced AI to perfectly optimize those green technologies. It's making solar panels more efficient, actively managing smart grids in real time, and accelerating the discovery of new battery chemistries. Step 3, nations that achieve this closed-loop system, they dominate. AI and green climate policy aren't in opposition at all. When structured correctly, they perfectly feed into and accelerate one another. To actually make this loop work, a modern superpower strategy requires 3 essential balance pieces: AI compute power, green energy capacity, and strategic policy integration. You absolutely need equal parts of all 3. I mean, think about it. If you have incredible AI but a weak, outdated grid, you bottleneck. If you have all the green energy in the world but no tech sector, your economy stagnates. But if you achieve a balanced integration of these 3 things, that creates an unstoppable economic and global engine that operates entirely independently of those 20th century constraints. And that brings us to our final section, tomorrow's global superpowers. When we zoom out and look globally, different regions are playing very different chess moves to position themselves for this new reality. On one hand, you have regions focusing heavily on AI software dominance. Their key strength is rapid innovation, and they're allocating practically all their resources into gathering massive amounts of data and building raw compute infrastructure. On the other hand, you have regions focusing intensely on green hardware dominance. Their strength lies in massive manufacturing scale, literally building the millions of batteries, the square miles of solar panels, and the heavy physical grid infrastructure. Both are highly effective approaches, for sure, but they address entirely different sides of the convergence we just explored. So the crucial point is this: the mastery of both AI and climate policy is becoming the ultimate geopolitical trump card. You simply cannot win the 21st century by focusing on just one side of this equation. The future firmly belongs to those who can bridge the gap, the nations that can write the software of the future while simultaneously and independently powering the hardware that runs it. I want to leave you with a final thought to ponder as we wrap up this explainer. Where does your region fit into this new geopolitical reality? Are you living in a place that's prioritizing data, manufacturing, green grids, or is it falling behind altogether? Analyzing the world through this lens changes absolutely everything you see in the news. Thank you so much to the GeneCapsule audience for learning with me today. Keep asking those big questions, and I'll see you next time as we continue to decode the systems shaping our world.